Instead, they hire private security, okay? As you probably have seen, Disney has plenty of very nice-looking security guards. Will even pose in photos with you. So we can be thankful to Disney for making us happy. Now, why do they do that? Is it because, well, I don't know why they do that. Why is Disney so concerned about the safety of the customers? Somebody help me out.
Because if it's not a safe place to go, no one's going to go.
Okay, all right, good. It impacts their bottom line. Safety is just one of the many components of the amusement park, and it is profitable for them. The friendlier and happier the security guard is. The fact of the matter is, at least as far as I've ever observed, I've never observed any cases of police brutality at Disney World. Right? Just not something that you hear about. Other examples. I haven't seen these movies. I heard they're quite bad. But I do support the existence of 2 movies talking about the benefits of private police. I think that's so exciting and amazing that we live in a society like this. We've got, I've heard these aren't the most serious movies in the world, but we do have a lot of mall security and private security in the United States. If you count the number of just people, there's more private security officers in the United States than there are police officers. Now, they're not doing exactly the same thing, but they're everywhere. They are concerned with, again, making sure the customer is safe. That impacts the demand for going to the mall. They're also there to make sure that people don't steal, right? That's another issue that they're there for. So private security is very common in shopping malls and elsewhere around the United States. Some other things that I can think of, for anybody who's been to Las Vegas, this is one of the most complicated problems and dilemmas that they have to deal with. In Las Vegas, who are they concerned? Who are some of the people who, for example, could be stealing, and the casino needs to prevent this from happening? Who are the main people they need to be concerned about?
Customers.
Customers, okay, that's a major issue, right? If the customers go in and steal money, that's a bad thing for the casino. They lose money. Who else?
Dealers.
Okay, right. The dealers, the employees. So there's all these things that they could do to try and collude and just slip things in their pockets illegally. And it's so complicated that they simply cannot rely on government police to do it all. It's just too complicated of a problem. So instead, what do? They have this very complex system. I'm sure people have seen these things or pictures of them. Everything is being monitored at all times, completely privately. For anybody who saw the movie, I think it was called 21, that was an example of that. They actually would try and remember who people were, remember who card counters were. They even had systems of alerting other casinos who card counters were to see if they're in the area and to make sure that people are playing by the rules. So now there were some mean people in that movie, so I don't want to hold it up as this great example, but it is illustrative. All right. So here's just a few examples that I wanted to point out. These are all around us. Everywhere we go, I think there's lots of examples of private security. Now, a lot of people might say, well, yeah, it can work at a small level. It can work in your college, or it can work in the shopping mall. But that's not really that important. That's not that big of a deal. Could it work on a larger scale? That's really a hard question, right? What if two people are not from the same college, right? How would that be solved? And I'm going to present the basic argument and then re-ask the question again. Thomas Hobbes argued, he says, before the names of just and unjust can have place, there must be a coercive power to compel men to the performance of their covenants by the terror of some punishment. Such power there is none before the erection of the Commonwealth. So he says you can't have people abiding by their words before the government. And I'm going to re-ask the question in modern times. And the following question I'm going to ask is, what if Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith have a dispute? Mr. Jones, I'm going to call my police of my government to get you. But I do not recognize the authority of your police. As Ayn Rand said, what happens then? You take it from there. So these two people were from different countries in this soccer match, and who solved it?
FIFA.
The United Nations? No. No! The private judge. Thank goodness for the private judge who came in and said, you can't do that. He was hired by two people from two different nations who don't have the same legal authority over each other, but nevertheless, for the purposes of this match, they selected a private judge. This is actually quite common, not only in sports matches, but I will argue with all international agreements. You can sign a contract with somebody, but unless you can take that person into court, how are you going to get that contract enforced? And in many cases, it's just way too difficult. In many cases, impossible. So think about international trade. You've got people dealing with each other from all over the world. Hundreds of people, hundreds of countries. If you have somebody who you're dealing with in another country doesn't fulfill their side of the agreement, who do you call? They're in Singapore, you're in the United States. Do you call the United States government? Do you call the Singaporean government? It's not that easy to do because nobody has jurisdiction. There's no such thing as a United Nations that enforces all contracts and then says, oh, well, we're going to pull that guy and put him in our court. It just does not happen like that. So there's a few solutions I can think of. One is you can call the person and say, I hate you. Give me my money. I hate you. Give me my money. You can do this over and over again. That might not work. Another thing, another idea I thought of is you get an arm wrestling. Whoever wins, you've got to give me my money. You owe me. I still remember that, John. And I'm going to hold you to it. This could be a big problem with international trade where there's no easy way to have contracts enforced. Instead, private parties have incentives. Okay, think about this. Incentives to minimize the losses of disputes. It's in their best interest to try and figure out a way to solve that dispute peacefully and quickly at low cost. Otherwise, they're going to be losing lots of time. Imagine them going into government courts. How long is that going to take? Years. So instead of just having this completely up to random, there's people who do all types of, there's millions of types of agreements, but a couple of the main ones I'll mention are simply hire an arbitrator. Okay? Private arbitration is an extremely common way of resolving disputes abroad, internationally, and in the United States. Anybody here who has a cell phone, you have already signed an arbitration clause that says, in the event of a dispute, we promise to go to these private people to resolve our disputes. Why? Because they do things more